Hi, my name's Simeon. Thank you for joining me. I'm going live with a special show with Emanuel Zevallos. He's running the largest body code practice in the world. He's got the biggest YouTube channel for the modality of the body code and emotion code. He's running Compass Healing, and he's doing phenomenal work. He's and I've got some just you're doing just such amazing work, and um yeah, thank you for coming on today, Emmanuel.
Yeah, glad to be here, Simeon. I'm grateful. You know, we're what do I say? Like we're cut from the same cloth, man. Like we're doing the same work. You know, so it's just a blessing to see if I can add any value to anyone out there that is looking to be more than what they are. And my answer to you is it's already inside of you. So there's just it's not like you have to add anything to you. Really, you're just shedding off stuff and you're becoming a better version of you. So that's the good news, right? I think that's the best news I've heard for the last few years. You know.
Absolutely, Emmanuel. It's so exciting, and yeah, everything we're kind of taught is like God internal, isn't it? And we're just kind of shedding those layers and getting closer to our potential through all of the work we do with the body code is connecting, with God first, asking for help from above to remove any energetic blockages that can be in place. And we look at the body on a very holistic level with the body code, looking at all of the energetic things that can go on, looking at the pathogens and circuits and systems misalignments, toxins and nutrition and lifestyle elements, and through removing the imbalances, it's really profound, the healings that can come about, isn't it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just we're just I think the first order of programming that we have to consume some type of medication or something like that. I feel like we're in the generation now where people are tired of like the temporary band-aid. And I don't think it came from our generation. I think it was seeing our baby boomers suffer that caused us to be like, I don't like how my mom and dad are doing. And they've been doing this cycle of just putting band-aids, and then our grandparents too. So when you see like almost one or at least two or maybe one generation that's saying like, this isn't working up here, I think we're trying to learn from them and say, we have to do something different. The weird part about it is it's not something new that we're learning. It's something old that our great members used to do. I used to make fun of people who say this is new age. I'm like, this is old age. This is before band-aids, like temporary medical band-aids, were around. We were studying the stars. We were studying nature. We were eating more holistically. This is our real generational upbringing that we've forgotten. That's
Yeah.
we're tapping into again.
Yeah. I mean, we're really the species with amnesia in a lot of ways. And as what you're saying is just going back to like all of the shamanic wisdom and all of how everything's interconnected, and there's just so many examples of it in nature, and it's very interesting the way that God uses golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence, and all of these things are kind of encoded in our bodies and encoded in our genetics, and it's there's so much ancient wisdom just to be tapped into, isn't there?
Yeah, it's something that again we're now resurfacing because people are sick and tired of being sick and tired. So this is it's kind of like returning back to what used to work before because there's too many inconveniences now.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's what it takes. So there's a saying that says some people are pushed by pain until they're pulled by vision. And right now in society, people are being pushed around by pain, physical pain, financial pain, spiritual pain. And so we're wondering like, where is the vision? And we start realizing that our ancestors had the vision, and they're saying, no, there's a universe inside of us, and there's a way to unlock just certain combinations in our body to be able to do better and live a better life.
Yeah, and just with all of the pains and everything, with typical painkillers or pharmaceuticals, it's not usually a chemical deficiency people have. It's usually maybe an energetic imbalance or mineral and vitamin deficiencies. And it's fantastic to have a tool like the body code to remove these energetic imbalances, to help the body just return back to a balanced state, or pinpoint the minerals or vitamins that the body may need to just be able to restore its hormonal functions easier.
Yep, you're totally right.
And yeah, people are being pushed from every angle, really, with the financial aspect. And I just, what makes a law meaningful is that everyone follows along with it at the end of the day, and that's a form of like a mass. I don't know. What would that fall under? Would it be a saboteur energy or post hypnotic suggestion? but that following.
Yeah, it could be like, and that's what's beautiful is that I tell my clients, I only need you to be one thing. I just need you to be professional symptom seeker. That's it. Just a PSS, professional symptom seeker. Because at the end of the day, when we're tapping into our subconscious using forms of muscle testing, I really do follow the holistic model of anything can cause anything. So the assumptions that we make, and I'll give you a good example. A lady who I worked with who had a stroke, and she lost her vision in her left eye, and then her right eye was under a lot of pain. So she asked the doctors, hey, I'm having a lot of pain in my right eye. What's going on with that? And the doctor said, well, it must be the nerve damage behind the eye due to the stroke. Just, there's no way the doctor kind of like, went in there in the microscope and went through the eye and saw the nerves back there going like, all shriveled up. But I muscle tested and I try to see what's really happening. Why is that? And I found out due to the radiation of the hospital, the EMFs that were in there, due to medication that she consumed for pain, her pineal gland, that little that they call the third eye, was basically imbalanced, and because it was imbalanced, it says it can cause vision problems and eye pain.
Was it calcified from fluoride, possibly, or?
Yeah, or like I said, or just other reasons why it was imbalanced. And then now that it's imbalanced, it does say it causes eye pain. And then I lowered it from a 9 to like a 2 within 15 minutes. And it had nothing to do with really nerves, really, Or if it was nerves, it was only the 2 that's left, So I always tell people, I'm like, just find me the symptom. Let's not label it like somebody in 1976 with glasses one day was like, let's call it this disease here. And then because if we call it this disease, then they have to get this medication on page 98. How about that, gentlemen? We don't really have to follow that guy. Just say, all they really did was this. They said, hey, let's start creating names for a combination of symptoms. That's all they did. And then let's make a black book that will update every single year of what medication they need to take. That's what they did. And so that was the plan that no one knew was happening. And then they also said, let's do some research and do some testing on it, but we'll only use the testing that we like. So if this medication actually doesn't work like 90% of the time, let's look at the test where it shows that it works 6% of the time, and that's enough for it to go to market. And then we'll just tell people that it works. I mean, that's kind of what we're given. Those are the cards that we're dealt with. And then again, I bet 30 to 40% of it is just placebo effect. It's just because you took something, you thought you were going to get better, and your brain actually produced more of the results than the actual whatever's inside there. The chemicals that were inside there. So it's just a very interesting card deck that we were kind of dealt with.
And it is so interesting the way that our body can do the whole healing process with, and Joe Dispenza's highlighted it very nicely with You Are the Placebo,
Mhm.
recovering from his, paralyzing spinal injury with just the thought process of him getting better. And
Yep.
there's been many other examples like that. So we do have this profound power and potential that we can tap into for healing, and it's quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
And another lovely example was the guy who's known as the Miracle Man, wasn't he? Who crashed the fighter jet, and all he could do is blink one eye. His chest was like destroyed. His lungs were on a machine, and he got up out the hospital and walked out.
Right. Yeah. That was in the movie The Secret,
Yeah.
by Rhonda Byrne. And yeah, I mean, just the power of our mind, and that's why I always, like if something made the cosmos, and something made our atoms and all these different things that are zipping around, that like the universe and just like the biochemistry of atoms and molecules, and we're like supposedly the greatest creation in the universe. Pretty sure we have like a tune-up system. I'm like pretty sure that we have ways to sort of self-heal. The only thing that's getting in the way of that is ourselves, and it's our own baggage. We don't know how to handle our emotions that well, and that's why it's interesting. The dichotomy is that we came to this earth to experience life, but that doesn't mean you have to endure all the pain, all the suffering that you're dealing with right now, because your body has like a way to kind of restore things to how it should be. So the key is like, what language are you using to your subconscious? That's really what matters. Is whatever you're doing up to now, whatever you received in your life, whatever you see around you, is due to your subconscious programming. But if there's programming, it means the programming can change. So and once you know that, once you're like, wait a minute, whatever programming I did 5 years ago is why I have what I have right now. So you're saying I can change my programming, so 5 years from now everything is different about my health, my wealth, my relationships, everything? And the answer is absolutely yes. So that's kind of, again, a good thing to know.
It's phenomenal. It's just so powerful when we're doing the body code and belief code work on ourselves, just restructuring, getting rid of all of those negative beliefs and, trapped emotions that are creating, essentially they can be creating cycles of issues that are repeating if we don't fix that cycle and fix that imbalance. And then if we implant what we want and we put that belief in of what we want to achieve, it just makes it so much easier to pull it into our reality. And then the right person will come, the right conversations will be had, and the right clients will come, and just the right situations come about at the right time when we believe we can create that situation. And it's just so inspiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of people. I feel like there's so many powerful energy healing modalities out there. Reiki healing, theta healing, acupuncture. There's so many different ones. The reason why I feel like, maybe you can agree with me, but I love the emotion code, body code, because it's so logical. It's like
Mm.
emotion, this age, this emotion, that age. And it's
Yeah.
not so esoteric.
Mm.
Reiki, for example, you're seeing someone removing cords, you're seeing different things, but usually you're on the table with your eyes closed. And so they're doing certain symbols on you. That could be very kind of esoteric and sort of like, I don't know what just happened, though I feel very good. I don't understand what's really happening. With the body code, you can write the notes down and be like, this emotion, age 4, this one you absorbed from your father, age 9, this is inherited from your great 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 grandmother. So everything is more, in my mind, like tangible. And I think I like systems. Like I like systems where you can kind of navigate and it makes logical sense. And but it's still energy healing, where it almost makes no sense. Like it's almost like the results make no sense from a diagram and system that makes total sense. So it's kind of ironic.
It's just amazing. I'm so grateful to Dr. Bradley Nelson for creating the emotion code and body code. And I'm very much like you, Emmanuel, in the sense that I wouldn't really feel that comfortable with some Reiki techniques, because I like having a system in place, with
Yeah.
knowing that you're following a systematic, template, that that you're being guided off. There's no kind of no gray area. It's and then Dr. Brad being a chiropractor, there's nothing more straightforward really than doing an adjustment. Instantly you've got better range of movement. I actually got adjusted by my friend today, and it was about 6 months or so since I got adjusted by him. And like, to the left earlier, I had like 50 degrees. He adjusted my neck twice, then he did thoracic, lumbar, then neck again, and straight away 70 degrees on the left. And
Nice.
it's just instant, and it's very calculated. And I love the way that Dr. Brad's coming from that chiropractic background, where everything's very systematic, where you're looking at the vertebrae, the spinal cord, and how everything's working systematically with the human body, in a very in-depth understanding. And he's taking that to an energetic system that we can just pinpoint where the issues are, and it just takes all the guesswork out, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Plus, he was a computer engineer, by trade, so it makes sense why he made an app. Like, it made an app, and that just sound. I mean, God couldn't have picked a better person, a chiropractor, software engineer, to make an app, body code app. I mean, it's just a little too perfect, the perfect storm.
Yeah.
And I got to know him too. And I'll tell you something that he told me once that was very powerful, when we were having sushi over in Salt Lake City together, because I was mentored by him at the 12th month of my business, because I emailed him and said, hey, I'm trying to sort of create some goals for me for my practice, and I'm going to reach my goal in the 12th month. I haven't done it yet, but when I do it, I'm going to email you back, and I would love to help practitioners go full time. So I created a advanced healer success guide, a program to help practitioners go full time. And I said, I'd love to introduce it to you, because I feel like we should be at 500,000 practitioners, not at 5,000 when I was kind of first starting. And he's like, yeah. So he mentored me, but we went out to dinner once, and he said something really powerful to me. Usually when someone's very egotistical, and someone's all about the money, or all about their how people see them, you would assume that if you say, hey, where do you see the future of the emotion code? You would see it be very like expansive, like, like kind of like this, the world, and everyone will see that, like this whole world thing. And he didn't have that answer to me when I asked him. I said, where do you see the future of what you do 10 years, 20 years from now? And he said, emotion code was just meant to increase the faith of just a few people in the world, not the whole world, just a few. And just that few is, once that few, their faith increases, hopefully it will change the whole world, because we'll get back to believing in miracles again, and then maybe we won't have to use the app anymore. We'll just say, in the name of the creator, be healed. But he's like, but we're not there yet. And then there will be no use for the emotion code anymore,
Huh.
And I thought it was very powerful that, like, it's really just a tool to increase our faith. And then once we have the certain level of faith, there's no need for the tool anymore.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's not what you would hear from a founder who you think would want to get all the accolades. It's almost like he's just a messenger to build the foundation of a building, and then the rest of it is like built by faith builders. He's not involved anymore. He kind of steps back, and he's like, I've done my work here, is increase a certain level of amount of people to have a high quality faith of the way our spiritual ancestors used to have back in the day. Like they would say, like, the Lord of Isaac, the Lord of Jacob, the Lord of Abraham. It's like they had these, just a different level of faith where they could move mountains. They could, it's just, we're not there yet. And the world's in a low frequency state, but a tool can get us up there again, so that we can start believing again the way our spiritual forefathers used to believe in.
And it's been biblical times the last few years.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's bad. I don't know if it's as bad as Noah's time, which is I heard that's when things really start getting heavy. It's not there yet, but we're definitely on the trajectory of it. But our goal is to focus on, like, every time I leave a room or go somewhere, I want to make sure I added light to it. That's all. If you just live that simple life, doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter what beliefs you have. If you just say, every time I go into a room, I'm going to leave it better than how it was before. And if everyone thought like that, and whenever I meet someone, I'm going to pretend like they're my brother and sister. If everyone just thought like that, then you can change the world. It doesn't need to be. Everyone's not going to change. The world wasn't. Dr. Brad didn't say the whole world. He said just a few high faith oriented people can change the world, So
my feeling has always been that, everyone needs to know about the emotion code and body code. This is amazing. And it's just so interesting to hear that Dr. Brad's coming from such a humble place of, just his job's done. He's had that connection, true God to do that job, and that's been it. But I think the belief code couldn't have come at a more phenomenal time, just post the last few years of being fairly beliefs tested in lots of ways over the last few years, and certainly without going into it in any deep detail. But Emanuel, what first interested you in the body code?
So I think what first interested me in the body code was desperation. I was in a very desperate time in my life. 2015, my relationship was upside down. My finances were upside down. I wasn't a good father. I wasn't as present as I could be. I didn't know what my calling was in life. Like, everything was just upside down. I was on the dark side of the moon. And my mentor taught me that I should go read a book. Like, whenever you're stuck, go read another book. Whenever you're stuck, read another book. Just read book. Like, there's every level's a new devil. Read a new book to get to the next level, right? So that's kind of what I was taught. So when I was doing this business where I was failing horribly, I just remember messaging someone on Facebook, "Hey, I'd love to, offer you this anti-aging product," and that's what I was doing. And he's like, "I have to go meet an emotion code client. You can talk to me afterwards." I'm like, "Emotion code client?" So then I went on Amazon, looked up emotion code, bought the book, and the rest was history. It was just kind of like, what is that? Like, that sounds like I need to look into that. And so, yeah, to answer your question, is every area of my life was stagnant. I was stuck. And I've read so many books, and I kept getting stuck. So I went to so many seminars and I still was stuck. So they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So most of us, technically, and me included, I was insane during that time. But I had to try something different. And I said, if this works, I'm going to go out there and help a lot of people. And I had to clear my heart wall. A lot of people don't know this. I'll tell you a little secret. Is even though I made 400 videos on YouTube, which I think could be more videos than Discover Healing. I mean, I could be wrong.
I think it's 700 now.
Okay, it's 700 now.
You're doing phenomenal work.
Yeah. So but back then, people don't realize that I picked up that book over 10 times. So I read it and I was like, and I read it again, I'm like, So that's kind of weird, right? How do I go from making 700 videos, but I was like declining a calling? And I really had to do with the heart wall. I was so numb and built so much walls around my heart that, like, if Dr. Brad would have walked into the room and said, "You're going to be a great practitioner one day," I would have been like, number one, who are you? Number two, get out of my room. And number three, I don't believe you. It's like, that's where I was, so I had to remove that heart wall. And once my friend did it for me, because I didn't do it for myself, I was up till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. looking at webinars from Dr. Brad. And then it was my ex-wife who tapped my shoulder and she's like, "Go to bed, it's 4 a.m. And I'm like, "What?" So that's when I started experiencing timelessness, like time stopped for me. And that's when I said, this is my mission. And I want to stay as long as I can in moments of timelessness where my heart is singing and it's louder than all the voices that are around me. I wanted to stay there. And that's what I did. So I just kind of went after it.
It's phenomenal, the results from clearing the heart wall and the profound feeling of unconditional love for
Mm-hmm.
for ourselves and others that it brings in through removing that. And is probably the most satisfying thing with the body code and emotion code work, is clearing the heart wall for our clients, isn't it?
Yes,
It's
yes. That from I feel like I've been a major advocate of the heart wall whenever I met with clients. Is like whenever they gave me their list of symptoms, I always put in the heart wall. The reason why, and I wasn't afraid of saying your first 3 sessions or your first 4 sessions will be the heart wall. Like I have no fear because I knew that every block in their life has something to do with their walls. So I was like, if this is the greatest discovery in energy medicine, why are we putting it in the back end? Like we should be putting that in the front end. You see a major shift in your life, and then let's start, kind of fixing every little aspect of what's going on. But you got to put the big Lamborghini up front, And so that's what I did. I kind of had the routine of like go on a heart wall journey with me. I started kind of talking different to the field, saying, let's have an emotion code session. That's not what I was preaching. I was like, let's do a heart wall journey, and I'll work on other annoying symptoms that you have. Oh, you have back pain, heart wall, then back pain. Next session, heart wall and heel pain. Next session, heart wall and depression. So I was working on what they want me to work on, but I kept sliding into the heart wall until it was completely gone, and then I didn't tap into it again. So that was like my technique when I first started.
Great, amazing. And I completely agree. It should be something that should be at the forefront of medicine, because it's phenomenal, isn't it? When I've had some clients before who've been doing, nearly 2 decades of counseling, and it might take half a dozen body code sessions with clearing the heart wall, and they just feel this profound shift, which they wouldn't have felt before. And it's really quite mind-blowing, and it's quite an intense process as the energetic frequency of those emotions are coming up, and it's being processed, that time, that memory, and it can be very exhausting too for our clients as they're going through it, can't it?
Yeah, and kind of an ironic connection too is that I remember a doctor that I worked with, and I worked on his heart wall, and he was talking about how it not only blocks the love that you feel from others, but it blocked the love from the creator. That the creator is always pushing out love, but we're the ones that put the stakes up and don't allow it to come to us. But he's always pushing love on the whole world and everybody. That's what we do with our children. Do we ever hold back our love? The flawed parents that we are, we don't hold back that. So, and we're imperfect. So think about a perfect parent. Do you think he holds back the perfect love to everyone? I don't think he does. But what's interesting is that when you have a heart wall, some of the symptoms you might have is you have shoulder pain and neck pain. And my metaphorical, what I start thinking about is that it's us trying to hold the burden ourselves. Like it gets heavy in our shoulders. And then when you kind of like say, God doesn't exist and whatever, there's a term for it actually in the scriptures. It's called like stiff neck. It's like stiff neckedness. Because of your stiff neckedness, you don't look up to see who's really there. So when you clear the heart wall, maybe your neck pain goes away. You're not stiff neck anymore. You're not bearing the weight of all the things. Like, this is my life, so I have to fix it, and it's my burden. It's like that gets heavy on people's shoulders. So there is something beautiful that happens when you open up your heart, you feel the creator's love, your neck pain goes away, your shoulder pain goes away. It kind of makes metaphorical sense that those symptoms kind of come with it.
Yeah, absolutely, Emmanuel. It's very important to lighten the load. We don't want to be carrying too much of that emotional baggage just weighing us down. And I just love their a few days ago, one of my clients said after a body code session that her hips and knees had like moved or changed, alignment wise, that things had just shifted around. And I was just thinking, there's the hips can store a lot of emotional baggage, and there's a lot of tension stored there. And if that was the cause, the emotional tension being stored in the hips in that area, the releasing of it can just allow the hips and knees to come back into alignment. And it's quite phenomenal to think about how it can create that shift, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more of, and also too, with kudos to you helping out, lowering people's pain. But it's kind of like what we all need is like emotion 101 school back in, I don't know, 5th grade, 6th grade, should be taught in our education. And then if the teacher would have been like, today we're going to talk about how pain is just messengers. And this is what we're going to talk about. Instead of like, pain is a reason for you to get medicated. It's how you frame things and how you put perspective into things. I always tell people perspective equals peace. When you have perspective of what really is, not what the story is, it's what really is, then you can actually have that inner peace and joy. But I feel like I wish people would have been like, when I work on someone brand new, I always say, I'd love to work on all the symptoms you talked to me about, but I need you to stand up and I need you to move your neck, move your shoulders, move your hip, move your whatever. And I go, do you have any area that you feel pain? It's going to keep giving you pain until you release certain emotional baggage. So you're overdue for a healing session if you have pain. And they go, oh, it's my neck. Okay, great. We look at the neck, and then all these things from childhood, from teenagers, it finally comes out. Like, wow, I haven't thought about that for a while, And then all of a sudden they have that relief. And I'm like, yeah, it was going to keep giving you that pain, that message, until you finally say, I accept that message. I let go of that pain. And now I can feel relief. So that's a good way to frame things. Whenever something bad happens to you in life, I think a good thing to ask is what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow from this? Or when you have pain, what is this pain teaching me? And most people don't think that way. Most people think, why me? Why is this happening to me? So no, forget the why me. Why me means you're a victim, and no one's a victim. We're all here to be victors in life. So if we reframe it and just say, how could I learn from this? How can I become more? Because, we didn't come here to just acquire things in life. We came here to become more. When you're at your job, you're becoming something different. When you have a relationship, you're becoming something different. So why is it different when you're going through stuff that you don't say, how can I become more through this instead of why me? So I think it's all about reframing, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And symptoms are just there to tell us that something's wrong, and to look for the solution in place. And sometimes difficult lessons come in different different ways, and sometimes it's just to make us change direction from wherever we're going. And sometimes the change in direction can be quite unpleasant. But an example might be like, I remember like I separated my shoulder quite severely before, and that was telling me to change direction with what I was doing. And it also gave me a lot of knowledge and rehabilitation, strength training, and all of that, which I could then use later on with personal training clients. So it's kind of like, I really like the way that you said, Emanuel, that there's like that symptom there, whether it's the trapped emotion or a belief that we're not good enough, and what's the emotional baggage that's linked to that belief that we can't have that perfect relationship, or we can't have that financial abundance. What's the reason in place for it? What's the symptom? And so much of our beliefs can be stored from the years of 1 to 7, where we're in a very developmental stage, where we're very much like an open book learning about the world. And also a lot can be from all the way back when inherited even. I mean, there's been a lot of things affecting our thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors many generations back. as you said at the start, this is very old system that's only coming back around now.
Yeah, it's true. And like I said, I love the way that Dr. Brad shares that, we're just all computer systems and we're getting programmed stuff, but you can, just like a computer system, you can change the programming of it. And they said that the average second grader has heard the word no over 40,000 times. So we're already programmed negative. And there's a great quote that I like that says that we were created for success, but programmed for failure. And I think that, so what we do as practitioners is change the programming for success, because we were created for it. You see, so but the institutions around us, the environments that we grew up in, family life, as well intentioned as they are, at the end of the day, they're flawed. They're flawed.
Oh, completely.
And so I think, but they tried their best. I mean, my parents did the best they could without releasing emotional baggage. I give them kudos to how they could even raise a family with all the trauma that they've held, and so that's why I forgive them. I forgive them for what they've done, because they did the best that they could at the level of there's the map of consciousness, and if they're swimming around 300, 400 level, then that's the best they could do at the level of consciousness. That they can't do better. It's like, so if they lived with a lot of shame and guilt, they're going to raise you with a lot of shame and guilt. That's the best they could do, because that's all they were programmed to do. So it really, when you do a lot of healing, you start, the process of healing is great, but there's a greater process that happens, the process of forgiving others, because then you realize that everyone's on their healing journey, and everyone around you that programmed you didn't have the healing that you thought they did. And so that's a beautiful thing that happens while you start healing and healing and healing. You start looking at your family and friends differently. You're like, wait a minute, if I've got all this baggage, what do they have? Oh, that's why they were the way they were. And it's just easier to forgive people when you finally get that understanding, because you're moving in a different level.
And I think the most beautiful thing about that all is when you change your energetic frequency and you heal your emotional baggage, it changes the way the people around you interact with you, and how everything's happening in your energy.
Yeah, changes.
It's really phenomenal, isn't it? And it's a hard thing to calculate or measure or grasp, but there's like a real profound thing that happens when we change our own subconscious, release our subconscious baggage, and program in what we want.
And I think a lot of people have experienced that even before they listen to this video of us talking, is that you've experienced before when you walk into a room and you look at someone and you're like, I don't know why, I just don't like that guy. Something rubs me wrong about this guy. We've had that before. We don't know what to call it. Some people call it intuition, but also in the body code, it tells you that whenever you're within 10 to 12 feet of someone, our subconscious is reading other people's files, like just going through their files. Oh, look, betray me. It's like, well, I betrayed a lot of people. We should be friends. Like you attract by the trauma that you have inside your subconscious. And so if you remove the files of trauma, then they're reading less files from you. So then now you're more enlightened. You have more light in you, and then they tend to go left while you go right, But if you guys have similar, because I don't know if you know this is a fact, is that a person who's an empath and a narcissist actually have the same sort of DNA, which is ironic because they shouldn't be together, because this is a very torturous relationship for the empath, but they have the need to please others, and the empath has that, but also so does the narcissist too. So they do it in their own ways, though. One of them is to actually help others, and the other one is to coerce others and to manipulate. But technically they have the need to be loved, they have the need to be liked, they have the same needs. but they somehow attract you. So you remove the trauma of being codependent and the way your parents program you, you won't attract the narcissist because you guys have different files now. So it's just interesting, like what you were saying, is that, like attracts like a little too much. It's a real thing. You might say, oh, did I really attract this person to my life? Yeah, the programming that you received from your parents, you unfortunately brought this person. But the good news is, let's get rid of it so that way you attract a new person to your life.
And that is a very chaotic relationship, and it brings a lot of kind of hard lessons learning about human psychology, really, doesn't it? It's and I think on the narcissism too, and sociopathy, that's all just trauma that has disconnected people's brains. That because I remember seeing a thing on the sociopathic mind, like with the brain scan, and just things just weren't linking up. It wasn't firing on all cylinders. It's probably firing on like 2 cylinders on survival mode, for example. But that's just trauma blocking them from functioning properly. And it's beautiful what can be done with the body code to remove these subconscious blocks, to bring their brains, their thinking back to a balanced state.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I remember a girl that I worked with who had dyslexia, and it had to do with brain connections. Because in the body code, they have physical to physical disconnection. So 2 parts of the temporal lobe wasn't working with the frontal lobe, or the just these different lobes weren't communicating. And what's interesting is that certain ages came up, age 9 and age 12. Those were the 2 ages where she remembers very clearly that her father abused her very, very strongly. And once I fixed it, she was able to read for the first time ever, and that was like, I think, only 2 sessions, which is very rare, knock on wood. That's not super common that it's that quick, but it was only within, I did some heart wall sessions there before. And then she randomly brought it up. Oh, by the way, my mom wants you to work on my dyslexia. I'm 19 years old and I haven't been able to read to read properly. And she couldn't believe it. Once I worked on that, all of a sudden she was reading for the first time. She emailed me and said, I'm going to read with very small letters tomorrow, and I'm going to be very tired, and I bet I can't read, So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, go ahead, try it. And then she's like, I could read with small letters and not bright lights. Like I could actually, so it like, you're right. There's one of my favorite findings of Dr. Brad, I would say, that was kind of mind blowing to me, is the morning sickness one. And to see, a lot of what's beautiful about the morning sickness story is that whenever someone's a visionary, they usually are pushed by pain, like I was saying before, and they're pulled by vision. So what's the pain of Dr. Brad? I think it was his 3rd daughter that the mom dealt with some serious morning sickness, and so the vision was like, what's really happening. And if you Google around and try to find it, you'll find remedies, like holistic remedies, to assist with, all these like birth issues, like, you feel very nauseated, things like that. But they're just Band-Aids, technically. There's no real cure for it. Don't say the cure word, But when he found out that it was energetic cording, like cordings of the spiritual baby with the physical mom, the spiritual fetus with the physical fetus, the brain of the mom and the placenta of the baby. Like, that's way ahead of his time. Like, this is something that 30 years from now they're going to be like, wow, spiritual and physical cording with mother and baby, physical mom, physical baby, spiritual mom, spiritual baby. That's what was causing morning sickness. That again, very, very enlightened. But like I said, you can't find it online. Go ahead and find a cure for that. You won't find it. But Brad found it because of pain. And so for those of you who are watching this and you're dealing with the pain, your test is a testimony. Like, you're going to get out of what you're going through, and you're going to heal other people who are going through the same thing. So you're not a victim of your situation. You have a story. Your story isn't that good if you're always doing good in life. Like, I'm sorry, Like no one's going to read Paris Hilton's book. Someone made it. One of my friends said that. Like no one's going to read Paris Hilton's book. Why? I'm rich and I started rich and I ended rich. Like it's not that exciting. But when you start poor or you become rich, or you start sick and then you become healthy, there's something about the rising woman or the rising man that like pulls us for the underdogs. Like we want the underdogs to win. So anyway, that's a message for someone out there. If you're dealing with something right now, just say this to yourself. My test will one day be a testimony. I'll write a book about it. I'll be on stage about it. I'll help someone who's suffering and say, I know what you're going through, but you have to go through this in order to get that real, overcoming that you're supposed to,
Yeah. It's firstly, it's phenomenal that you helped your client within 2 sessions, and I think it's the most satisfying when you can help someone who's struggling so much like that so quickly. And I've noticed with myself, just removing, the subconscious blocks of, self-worth around relationships, shouldn't have a healthy, happy relationship. Like some of the things that were coming up in my belief code self sessions, shouldn't have money's bad. And just removing all of these things, just, it allows us to invite in the relationships and, the situations that we want in life. I wanted to ask you, Emmanuel, how do you find doing the group healing sessions versus working one-to-one, and what inspired you to focus on the group healings?
So, great question. So I created an institute long time ago, and it was like supposed to be kind of like a healer meets coach institute. And we were graduating people, we were doing all this stuff. Unfortunately, that company ended, and not on a good note. But during that time, I was able to like experiment with like, I wonder if I could do a group healing, but just using the body code, and I did it. And people processed for 2 days, like or 2 or 3 days, the way people usually process. And it came from it came from a video that Brad was doing, and where he was talking about, what is everyone feeling right now in this room? Like, and then like, what's an emotion that everyone is feeling right now due to COVID? And it was like fear. Okay. So I had the intention to remove fear from everybody because we're kind of sharing the same emotion. I was like, okay. So then I was like, but can we do it all long distance, like with everyone, And I just kind of had that intention in my head. I'm like, I'm going to do this long distance. Anything is possible for the sake of helping humanity. Let's do this. And people started seeing shifts. So I was like, So I did that. And it was just kind of ironic that like within a few months after that company closed, somebody was saying, I have a group certification, go get group certified in group healing. And this was different. This was not a 1-day thing and then you last for 2 days. This was like every single day you're opening up a room for people to come in, and they are healing in 0-point field energy for 7 days straight. And like multiple modalities are working on them. So I was like, And so I did it, practiced it on some people. I got certified in it. And then we got over 125 plus reviews of people's lives, like kids changing, adults changing, physical symptoms going away. And something happens when a bunch of people come together and they have a similar theme, like all physical symptoms or relationship imbalances or wealth issues. When people come together and they put their 2 or 3 intentions in and we all kind of sit around a fire, magic happens. It's like they go deeper because, the body code goes very deep. And I bet the belief code and emotion code go very deep. And it's just like a supplement. Like it's something you can just add on top of. You don't need it. Can you go by yourself and do a belief code session? Maybe. But there's something special that happens when you do a group healing and people's intentions are all honored. And for 7 days straight, we're opening a room 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 8 a.m., 8 p.m., 8 a.m., 8 p.m. And I'm working on different activations every single day. I've seen just huge changes. In fact, there's this one lady, there's a way you could do it for a group, and there's a way you could just do it for one person. So if one person wanted to enter into the room by themselves, I'll even tell you cool little secrets. And one of the places that I place people, their astral body is Glastonbury, which I bet you're familiar with Glastonbury.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so Glastonberries, they call it the heart chakra of the earth. And so I put them, if you look up 0 point field energy, I put them in the earth, like 0 point field energy in Glastonbury. And that's the place where 0 point field energy is where all possibility is like available. It's like there's nothing holding anything back. It's just complete light just happening. So if you put a body in there for 8 hours straight with their intentions, amazing stuff can happen. And so, but you can do it for one person. Some lady that I know that was a client, she got some shots, I guess, in her legs for something, and her whole left leg was completely inflated with blood. Like it was like she was actually bedridden for 2 weeks. I put her in one of these rooms just for 3 days straight, just activate 8 a.m. the next day, activate 8 a.m. again, and just did that. And her leg got like 80% better, and she was able to walk for the first time of 2 weeks being bedridden. So I know this, I know it works. Sometimes I have clients that they ask for that room after I do their session. So I do their session and then I end it with a room at the end, and they kind of double heal on it.
And when you say the room at the end, is that true intention that you're putting them into that energetic zone of Glastonbury?
Yeah. So they're in there, and like because a lot of people don't know this, but like our spirits can be like our different. We have different bodies, like spiritual body, physical body, astral body. With these, and if we need to put a one of our bodies in some other area to heal, when it comes back, it all of a sudden just everything starts working. Again, it's you have to come in with a different belief system. The different belief system is that if you believe it, it happens. If you don't believe it, see, people want to see it, then I'll believe it. No, if you want to see it, you have to believe it first. I've never seen an alien. It's because you don't believe it first. Once you believe it, you will see them everywhere. You'll be like, oh, like, not to freak anybody out, but they're definitely there. I've never seen a fairy. It's because you don't believe in them. I've never seen a miracle. It's because you don't believe in them. It's like everything has to be switched. That's the way God works. God doesn't work, I'll give you a miracle, then you'll have faith. God's like, no, give me your faith, and then I'll give you a miracle. It's a reverse God, and humans want it their own way, So, but yeah, so that's kind of the first thing I had to learn, is like, I have to believe in this first. That was like my first download. I needed to like finally believe, and then I went out there and did it. And yeah, it's been very gratifying seeing 30 to 40 to 50 people do it. My wife and I created this platform called Heal, which stands for haveempathyandlove.com. And
Lovely.
It's a holistic platform, and it has freedom of speech for holistic people. So people who love the holistic lifestyle, they can post whatever they want. You want to talk about, V dot injuries, you can write it in there, and no one will censor you. No one will put you in jail. No one, whatever. We allow people to read what you wrote, and so, and every week I have a new subject where I work on a new theme for healing, and people have the option to opt in, or they can just enjoy the platform. So it's called haveempathyandlove.com. It's free to join. But my wife and I made it for that reason. We wanted to create a safe space for people who love the holistic lifestyle.
And when you, that's amazing, Emanuel, and thank you so much for your work. And when you're doing the group healing sessions, are you focusing on like one emotion at a time for the group, or are you running through like an emotion code session where you're clearing multiple emotions?
Yeah. So what I do, for example, is like, it's a lot more open-ended. And what I mean by that is, like, if I say, like, the higher self is contributing to this, everyone has a higher self. And we can say, for example, I want to work on post-hypnotic suggestions, and I might muscle test to be like, what are the top 5 post-hypnotic suggestions that everyone has, And so then I'll find it, and then I'll write them down, and I'll say, okay, so that's one of our activations, is we're working on post-hypnotic suggestions. These are the 5 that we all have. But some of you guys have some imbalances below it. Your higher self will find it. I don't have to find it. So it's a lot easier. You don't have to body code, emotion code. I have to find everything. With this, I go, let's work on everyone's light score, or let's work on resistance to be motivated. Everyone might have a different percentage, but their higher self will move it to 100 without me. It just does it by
Oh,
itself. It's like once you're put in that room, it's like multiple modalities helping out. I ask for Arcturians to work on people. Um, I ask for light workers to work on them. I ask for elders to work on them. It's like a team effort. It's not even all me. It's like some of it's just like hire more elevated people to come help out this room for the intention of their theme that they have, and they come. They actually come to help out. So it's a very inspired work. I think the person that did it is called the company that did it is called Healing Remembered. And but anyway, I got certified in it, and I found a lot of gratification working with multiple. Because again, when you do a session, it takes time. It's like 30 minutes. When I open up a room, it could take me 10 minutes, and then it activates, and I just let go of the wheel. And then for 8 hours, it's healing that person, and I have no idea what's being removed, what's below, what's being removed, what suggestions being removed. I have no idea, but I just kind of put certain themes in there to guide that room, and then the room takes care of itself.
that's really phenomenal, really interesting. It seems like you've taken Dr. Brad's creation and developed your whole own system through this in a lot of ways.
I mean, I wish I could take credit for it. It's from Healing Remembered. That's where I got it from.
Yeah,
But like I said, some people don't want to learn how to do this stuff. They just want to participate in it. It's like,
yeah,
hey, you do that, but how do I join so I can like be a part of that? And
yeah.
we do that. And like I said, it's been very beautiful. I do like a whole 7 days of losing weight, do another 7 days of acquiring wealth, another 7 days. I mean, that's a lot of healing, And then if my clients work with me 1 day of the week, technically they got 8 sessions that week. I mean, that's a lot of. I mean, you're on the fast pace for healing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautiful to see people change. And one of my favorite ones that I did, I believe, was Heal the Children Week. It was like, even if children who didn't give permission, there's a lot of loopholes in the body code. For example, inherited emotions that affect the child. That's one. That's a loophole. Shared emotions with your child who's an adult. That's a loophole. Light score. You can change the light score of a person you love, and you don't need their permission because you're not working with their emotions. Body code, you have to be very careful. You have to always ask permission over 18. With light score, you don't. The spirit always gives you a yes to work on me because it's dark stuff that you're removing. So when it comes to entities and darker stuff, spirit's always like, get this thing off me. So then you do light score with them, light score between you and them. In fact, our practice has a thing called relationship repair 24 hours. And if people have a blow up and it's like almost irreparable, like they're going to divorce or they're going to break up a 5-year relationship, I go in there within 24 hours and I do shared energies. I do light score. I do light score of that person, light score of this person, light score between you guys. There's even a light score in between, like a table where the light score is and I'm cleaning the table. All of a sudden they're like, oh, my boyfriend said sorry to me, like, hey, he's different. What'd you do to him? It's like, well, we worked on every loophole I can find, and he's doing better now. And just you guys have a great life, And so it's a beautiful thing, to have this group capability, because I think maybe in the future, who knows, I might be in a tent. But let's say there's no more buildings anymore. We're all living in tents, and maybe someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, we're all dealing with malaria and illnesses. I could do a group healing for 100 people, and we're all working on viral symptoms. I don't have to work with each person one by one, like 100 people waiting in line. Like I could just put them all in a group. It takes me 20 minutes to open, 10 minutes to open, and then they're all healing at the same time. I think that's the future. It's going to get bad at some point. I don't want to go apocalyptic on you, but it might get that bad where it's like, we don't have time to do one-on-one sessions anymore. We got to do group now. We're dealing with some stuff, so, but
Yeah, we're certainly dealing with some stuff at the moment with all of
totally.
the injuries from recent events, and there certainly seems to be a lot of things to help that with, like the methylene blue and
Oh yeah.
augmented NAC, and there's a lot of really good, helpful things to deal with the potential apocalyptic issues that you speak of. But yeah, there's going to be some tough times ahead for sure. I'm in full agreement with that. You know, moving on from what's happened recently, and then there's going to be so much healing needed on such a big scale. And so when you're doing these group healing sessions, is there any like limit on the group you work on? Are you doing it individually on your own, or
So what's recommended is that I work on myself first. You know, I check my own light score. Are there any imbalances holding me back to heal this group of 50 people? So I do have to do the host always has to clear themselves. That's very key. So I never do one without working on myself first. And then afterwards, I open up this room. And then what's interesting is that sometimes there's some resistance, like the group is pushing back, you know, resistance or something like just blocking it. There's something sabotaging it. And I have to go in there and dig and be like, what's blocking this room from fully receiving the healing? And I have to like group release certain things using the body code, you know, and then once it goes, yeah, now everyone's receiving it, great. Let me check the light score of the room, you know, make sure it's 100% and the room's not being attacked, and then we'll just leave the room there and then it's activated. But it's a really interesting thing. I think, like I said, because I feel like if terror and fear are going to annihilate or are going to affect groups in the world, we live in a very yin yang world. It was only time before group healing became prevalent, because now there's group mobocracy, or what would you call it?
Mainstream media.
Mainstream media fear, which is done as a collective. So it makes sense, right? It's like if the devil's going to move his queen, God's going to move his queen too. And I think the answer to collective fear consciousness is group healing. That's the answer.
And are you working? So you're working on the group on your own, or are you using? Is there a group of practitioners working with you?
Just me by myself. Yeah.
Wow. And what's the biggest group that you feel comfortable with?
Probably the biggest group I had was probably like 64, 65 people around there, and I think maybe we were working on like weight loss, you know. But yeah, so it all fluctuates, depends on what subject resonates with you, you know, like.
And does it affect you energetically, the bigger the group or smaller the group? Does it?
No, because I there's ways to kind of it's almost interesting. It's almost like you go into a room, and I named it something. So if you see me ever like post about it, it's I called it they're usually just called healing rooms, but I call them solar rooms. And the reason why I call them solar rooms is because I'm a big fan of King Arthur, and kind of like his little his people around him in the circle. But solar rooms is a term for kings and queens where they rest from the hustle and bustle, you know. So when I look at a male or female, I just see king and queen. I just see king and queens everywhere, because we're technically DNA of God. So we're all kings and queens. So everyone deserves rest from their daily 3D world, you know. So that's why I call them solar rooms, because it's like kings and queens resting and healing. That's what it is. So but yeah, I'm able to activate it myself. And what I do is it's almost like I put separate rooms within a room. So you're in a room there, and I don't want anybody to cord with each other. I don't want people's energies to kind of mix together while they're in this room. So I have the intention when I'm creating it, I say everyone's in a separate room within the room. So so no entanglement happens in the room.
And then just kind of touch
deep stuff over here. I'm just kidding.
And then just touching on what you're saying, because I was kind of holding this back earlier a little bit when you were talking about like God internal with us, and you know, our programming or deprogramming. They say we've got 12 strands of DNA, isn't it? 2 active and 10 junk strands of DNA. So it's very much like the human imprint is like God internal, and like the potential when it's tapped into or unleashed or unblocked or, you know, the deprogramming is taken out is really just so profound, because like all of the hidden messages and hidden teachings from ancient texts is like God internal.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely. Well, and here's there's let me see if I can find it. I just saw it. Oh, here it is. Hold on one second. This is worth your time here. There's a book that I highly recommend. It's called The Next Step in Human Evolution by Scott Werner. And Scott Werner is a good friend of mine. He lives probably 10 minutes away from me. He's my herbalist. He's the guy that he was taught by Saint Germain for 5 years. And he didn't know he was even Saint Germain. Saint Germain kind of pretended like he was just a regular guy saying, hey, if you create this herb shop here in St. George, I'll teach you everything about herbs. And I know you have an OBGYN as a past, but now it's your time to teach people the power behind herbs, that you can cure all diseases with herbs. And so for 5 years, Saint Germain, one of the most enlightening people that's lived for the whole lifetime that we've been here on earth, was teaching him. And then finally he revealed who he was and took off. He taught him that we have to go back to the 24 strands, or I'm sorry, the strands of like what Mary had, Jesus had, Adam had. It's higher. It's higher in strands. And so he told them, he says, you have to say these words every single day before you go to bed. And it basically your body starts kind of creating these, like restoring what everyone used to have. But he said, due to toxic chemicals, heavy metals, radioactive pollutants, nano robotic brain and nervous system control technologies, our DNA is not the same anymore. And so this is a way to restore it. So anyway, it's a good book to read. It's called The Next Step in Human Evolution. And in there, I believe he writes...
Is it 12 strands of DNA to restore?
I'm trying to remember. It's not 12. No, it's
Oh.
I'm trying to remember here it is. What you want to do is you want to create the 24 strand DNA. It's in chapter 12. Chapter 12 is
wow.
creating and manifesting the 24 strand DNA. And he literally has the wording that Saint Germain gave to him of what to say out loud. And that way you're covered. And then there's a purple version. He says here, less than a page, only 3 minutes a day. It can be done 12 times 12 times for the effect to take place, once per day for 144 days. So it's a process to do. You have to do this for 144 days. So.
And there's definitely been just so much happening to people through heavy metal toxicity, whether it's mercury and, implants in people's teeth or injections or, aluminium or different sources. I heard they're even putting cadmium in chocolate now. And,
all I know is that, everything has to feed into the big machine. And so the more sick we get, the richer we get. And this all comes from really there's a term for it. It's basically called, in my faith, in my religion, it's called, like, they're called Gaddy Anton robbers. These are people that are from, like, Master Mahon. Like, Master Mahon is Cain, the Cain
bloodline.
Yeah, the Cain bloodline, but it's not even the bloodline. It doesn't matter the bloodline. It matters more the philosophy of Cain. And Cain believed that when he killed Abel, that he was free. That, like, now I'm free. That's the strangest thing to say when you kill your brother, is that you're free. But what it basically says is it's the philosophy that it's okay to bury your brother because you can get rich. And that philosophy has gone down to very disturbing companies that are now going like, hey, I don't care if we sell bad GMO food. I don't care if we get people sick, as long as we make money. We're like crabs in a bucket, dog eat dog world. That's Cain philosophy, so that's been breaded down to us. And we still have that type of philosophy happening where we're not, and the good people are like, I would never kill Abel, like that. See, that's the restoration of it all. But the reason why the DNA strand has gone and declined is due to Cain philosophy. It's very pervasive out there.
It's also the reason for all of the horrific trafficking in the world, isn't
Oh, yeah.
it?
But yeah, again, it has to do with there's a Greek term. Oh, it moves the hedonistic lifestyle, which is, eat, drink, and be merry, because we don't live like so. The people that eat, drink, and be merry, they don't believe in the afterlife. They don't believe that there'll be judgment. They don't believe there's a God. That's why they eat, drink, and marry now. It's all about consuming. It's all about taking advantage of people, taking. That's all they do. Narcissists are very good at that. Narcissists are very good at taking and not really giving and showing love. But yeah, again, that's the
Just
first.
just touching on what you're saying with the whole Canaanites and that bloodline.
Yeah.
It's all just a Masonic system, isn't it? And then they're following their religion of doing as much harm as possible, and that is an actual, a lot of the structures in the world are run off that, and that's why people get so poisoned. That's why food's weaponized, medicine's weaponized, religion, but everything has been, and a way to try and divide people and take their power away and stop them from, being connected to God, because everything's been kind of inverted, hasn't it? And the ultimate one's really been to push it so far to invert the gender and to push that on a mass scale and in the schools and education. And I don't know if that's really something I should be talking about, but it's just feel it's important to say when we're on that subject.
Yeah, it really right now. Um, According to the book of Revelations, it's like, there was a war in heaven, but it wasn't a war of weapons, though. See, it was a war of testimony. It's those who believed in the Father's plan and those who didn't, and those who were lukewarm. There's some lukewarm. They still came on earth, though. See, that's the people that we see that could be narcissists, psychopaths. That people are like, I guess I'll go to this plan, but they weren't like pro Jesus. They weren't like that. So the lukewarm came here too, with the people that believed in the plan, and the people that didn't, they're the ones that are in the invisible around us, haunting us, affecting us. They're in the spiritual war plane. So one of the things that is interesting is that the war of the testimonials technically is a war of words. And if you think about it right now, we are still at a war of words. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
censorship. It's censorship. It's take like not allowing you to share what you want to share on certain platforms. Technically, we're just on a different level of war of words. And again, the greatest thing that Satan could do for us is saying that he doesn't exist and that the war never happened and that there's nothing around you that's affecting us. It's like that would be the ultimate victory for him, is to say, it's all in your head, or oh, you had trauma, but there are things around us that are affecting us, and there's people that have aligned themselves with him. But that's why it's like all that stuff is it's just good to know. I don't sit there thinking about this stuff all day. All I
Yeah.
care about is like, what light am I bringing to people now? And I tell my clients I'm like a spiritual medic.
Yeah.
Like there's this war happening, and like I'm running. And I help you
Yeah.
out managing your leg, and then I run to the next person in war. Like that's what I am. I'm a medic. I'm a medic in the war. And sometimes I get shot. There's times where I get attacked in my house, like not physically, but there's a spiritual thing that happens at our house sometimes. But it's because I'm the medic. It's like if you enlist in the war, you're bound to get shot once or twice while you're trying to help others. And
Yeah.
but it's I find a lot of peace knowing that, like, if you become good at what you do, if you're good at muscle testing and you care about people, that you're going to leave that person better than they were before. Like, so whoever's listening to this, if you're an amazing gas person, gas pumper, then you pump that gas with joy and happiness, and you greet that person with the car, because there's no such thing as higher service. Like, I'm not better than the person who puts gas in someone's car. I'm not better than someone who sweeps the floors late at night at 1 a.m. Like, we're all brothers and sisters. I see you as equal. There's no such thing as higher service. Service is service, and like I said, the greatest servant didn't have any money to his name. that ever lived, so there's no such thing as better service. It's just, but whatever you do, be there, like be present, love what you do, love helping others. And that's the way to live,
And then definitely encourage people to chase what makes them happy, whatever is really important to them, to help them raise their vibration. What's people's soul mission, what's their purpose, what do they really want to do, and what's their best way to express that. And it's really beautiful with the emotion code and body code. We can look at what's getting in the way of that, and help them to remove whatever programming is in place to really chase up and follow those passions, and to develop them.
Yeah, we all of us have some sort of gift or talent here, and it's our goal to release them. That's why that emotion and the emotion code of creative insecurity. I've been trained that word is what keeps us the poorest. That word, creative insecurity, is like the number one reason for poverty, is people that don't release their gifts and talents. I don't know if you ever heard the saying before, Simeon, but do you know where the richest, like, in real estate, where is the richest soil in the planet? Do you know where that is?
Is it in the States, or?
Good guess. Is any other guesses you got?
Is it in Asia, South America, or is it Ireland? I'm not sure. I have no idea.
You got to be a patriot to put Ireland at the end. So the answer is the cemetery, because people die with their gifts and talents. So it's the richest.
Okay.
It's the richest soil, and so the goal is to be able to release these gifts, and we don't want to be in our deathbed with, let's say your gifts were like our personas, like they look like people, and they're looking at you going like, only you could have woken us up, but now you die here in this bed, and we die with you, and so that is, as you release emotional baggage, as you release being reactive, it's easier to emit your gifts and talents, because if you're too reactive, if you're too traumatized, you're constantly fight or flight. Everything you do is fight or flight. You're very reactive, and you can't, unless the puddle gets calm, unless the waters are just calm, then you can notice the little pebble of a gift that you have that goes, now you see the ripple. But if all the waves are all crazy, stuff like that, you can't tell what your gifts and talents are every time you put a pebble in that water. And so that's the goal of the practitioner, is like, let me help you not only heal, but be less reactive, be more responsive to life, not reactive. You can swim in depression, but don't drown in depression. You could tread with anxiety, but don't drown in anxiety. There's a big difference. And so, because there's nothing wrong with anxiety, there's nothing wrong with depression. Our body produces it, but it was meant for signals, not for us to sink.
And that's kind of the difference between an emotion getting trapped and just it being a normal part of day-to-day life, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're totally right.
I wanted to ask you, Emanuel, what was it like seeing? I saw in your video there this morning, you're seeing 120 patients before a week, with the body code, and you said it was very tough on your adrenals going through that. What was it like? Seeing that many people?
Yeah, it was very fulfilling, but it was honestly very tiring. It's a lot of people. But they say that when a horse is running, usually the last maybe 30 seconds of a race, its lungs are literally like incapacitated, like it can't breathe anymore. It's like, and basically what it's saying is that the horse only runs with heart. That's the only thing that's pushing him through. That's how I felt a lot of the days at the end of my days, like I was kind of out of breath and kind of like just pushing through with heart. So if something doesn't keep you up at night, I don't recommend you to join that field of career. Like, something's got to keep you up late at night. Something's got to keep you, if you can push through a lot of pressure, in your career, just based on love, then there's probably more in that career than you know. But if you're exhausted, mentally exhausted, and you can't take anymore, there's something out there that's more exciting for you. I really feel that way, and your heart is calling for it. But you're so used to what you were doing in your career that you're like, oh, I'll just stay here. But really, that's why I always tell people, when I clear your heart wall, it's a double-edged sword. I always tell them this, and they're always kind of like worried, and like, and I always go, well, you're either going to love your job, or you're going to end up hating, or you're either going to end up hating it. So there's really no, like, the gray. You've been in the gray long enough. You're either going to find out that you're in the white or you're in the black, and so that's the good news, because why wouldn't you want it that way though? Like, because they get kind of nervous about that, and like, well, why wouldn't you want it that way? That means you've been compromising your gifts and talents because of numbness, because you don't know where you stand. So wouldn't it be better to wake up and to feel again, and to be like, your heart saying, yeah, this is where I'm supposed to be? Or do you want to like just pretend like, go back into the matrix and become numb again, and then just do, like, that's not living anymore,
No.
So I tell people all the time, I'm like, be careful. I'm like, I worked on a one adult, and I worked on one young person who was 27. It's so funny. I was clearing their heart walls at the same time. This person hated their job more. This person stayed up late at night working on their projects for their career. What's the difference? This guy wasn't supposed to be where he was at. He realized he needs to move. This person was closer to where she was needed to go. She was in the process of it. So she was enjoying and feeling that happiness, joy, and elation that she should have been feeling when she was in her career, like her right career. You see?
Yeah.
So it's just so funny how it's like two people clearing their heart wall, different reactions on both sides. What's the difference? One of them was not in their element, and one of them was on their way to be in the fullest of the element. And so it's interesting how that works.
It's very fascinating, and I've noticed with since doing a lot of work on myself lately, it's kind of made me kind of question the direction I am with my own studies and what I'm doing. Because I started doing chiropractic in one part-time college. I'm not sure, should I chase up, a full-time course and try and, get, it's more expensive. It's a lot more of a commitment. I can't work as much while I'm doing it because it's full-time. But it just seems the right thing to do, if you know what I mean, just to get that quality behind it.
There's I'll tell you this is I want you to remember this pose. Okay, this pose is this somebody flicking off, and then there's this. and this is God, and this is God too. I don't know if you've ever seen that. There's like a picture of a cliff, and someone's getting kicked off the cliff, like someone's flicking him, but then the hand is below it, and you're kind of like you're falling. And I have to.
And sometimes it's just a blessing getting kicked out of where you're not meant to be.
So people don't know this. I got fired from my job 6 days or 4 days before my birthday. They said they couldn't afford to pay me, and I just knew God was like, "Get to work." Like, stop. You're playing small. You're not. You have so much to offer than where you're at your job. And as I was clearing my heart wall, the cubicle walls were closing in on me. Like, it's like I came into work and I was like, oh, I feel claustrophobic here, And so then I'd go open up my laptop, like, look and see if the boss is there. Then I'd start working on my practice. I'm like, what am I going to call my practice? And like, I was making logos, and then the boss coming, like, oh, hey, how's it going? Like, and I knew my heart wall was being cleared because the walls were closing in. So God does that when you start healing, let the walls close in, be uncomfortable. Because if you don't feel uncomfortable, you'll never leave where you were not supposed to be in the first place. So that's why I actually thank God that I got fired. That was him saying, not only get to work, but like, if you don't make this work, your family will suffer. So it kind of put a lot of fire underneath me to where I was like, and then on top of that, I'll tell you this, I was working with my friend, my friend was working on me, And I remember the day he told me, he's like, "Hey, I'm really busy today. I can't do a healing for you. What's going on?" "I'm moving to my mother-in-law's basement." "Well,
Mm.
what are you doing there? Aren't you like a successful practitioner?" "No, I'm just doing this part time." I'm like, "So you're kind of struggling right now?" He's like, "Yeah, I got to get a second job, you know." I'm like,
Mm.
"Dude, you're really talented. What are you doing going into your mother-in-law's basement?" That was the day where I told him, I said, "I'm going to prove to you that you can make a full-time practice out of this, and then I'll come back and let you know how it's going." And then I went and ran because of like to me, I was like, I'm going to make a training program, because how many people are like my friend who are going into their mother-in-law's basement in some way or another because they're too afraid to become what they should become. And I was just like, that's not going to be me. But in order for me to help others, I have to like not be going in that direction either, because I just got fired. I'm headed towards that direction. So I got to go the opposite way where it hurts for me. It's going to stretch me. I'm going to feel very uncomfortable so I can help other people become comfortable,
Mm. Mm.
And so, but yeah, so it's interesting how that my friend's story perfectly motivated me at the right time where I was getting fired. He told me this story and I'm like, okay, I can't handle that information. I need to go out there and bless a ton of people. No, I
Mm.
can't do this. And then the rest was history after that.
And I can completely relate to that story recently because I've been started this part-time course in Manchester, and so I was traveling over and back, and it was quite expensive with the traveling and everything. And I got completely slated in my exams, like the last theory and practical. They didn't do it properly at all. The marks I was given were ridiculous. I don't really believe in anything they're doing either, though, if I'm honest. I'm just doing it for the piece of paper. So it's going completely against the grain.
Mm.
So I've been pushed in a completely different direction, which is a real blessing. It doesn't seem good when, that we're, lost a lot of money, or, things
Yeah.
don't seem good, or, we've been unfairly treated. But sometimes it can just be a blessing that it'll change our direction round to, you know, open us to the path we need to take.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know that if let's say that if I were to teach anything to my kids, I would teach them that like you're the student and always be the student. Just
Mm.
always remain. You're never you've never don't ever arrive. Don't ever arrive. And everyone and everything that happens to you is a teacher in disguise.
Mm. Mm.
And
Every day's a school day.
every day is a school day. And so even the adversity of being fired, it's like, okay, I have two options. Like my teacher has given me two options. It's either go find another job and settle, or finally step into my mission and don't look back. And if I
Mm.
look back, I may be the female from Sodom and Gomorrah and turn into ashes, because now I know too much that this is my calling. Because once you step into your calling and you taste it, you feel what it would be like to do this full time, and you like taste a little bit of
Mm.
it.
Mm. Mm.
Looking back would probably turn you to ashes. There's no way
Yeah.
you return. You don't return back to a normal.
Mm.
It's almost like once your mind expands, you can never go back.
Yeah.
So that's something you have to live with if you do go back, and it's just you're not the same,
Yeah.
you already know what you could have been,
Mm.
so but then like I said, get some healing from your practitioner, from Simeon. Get some if you've embarked like, okay, you know what, I watched this video, I'm going to the next level. Simeon, who you're watching here, could guide you on every aspect that you're having trouble with. Oh, I have to go do a job interview. Okay. He'll help you so that you win. You don't put out any bad messages to the employers, and that you don't feel so stressed. Okay, now I got the job, but now I want to get a raise. Okay, he'll release messages that don't allow people to not give you a raise and to make you feel more productive when you work. Cool. Now I got the raise and I'm very successful, but now I feel a lot of anxiety. Simeon can help you with anxiety, so you can handle the success you're having right now. You see, so have Simeon in your little pocket here, like your little grasshopper from Pinocchio, and just whenever you need him, it's like, hey, this is where I'm at right now. Make my mountains into plains. It'll still be tough, But when you do sessions, it's like making a mountain to like a hill. It's like that's supposed to be this hard. It's supposed to be hard, but not that hard. And so what you do with healing is you push the mountain down, so it's just a small hill. And like, oh, I can do a hill. I just can't do that mountain. Like, you know. So I think that's what you do, right? You pretty much.
Absolutely, yeah. And I got the most lovely call from my friend this morning. He'd been like a few years trying to sell his house, and he's just taken a deposit. He'd met a potential buyer. He's a good salesman too. He'd arranged all of the negotiations and set everything up. And we'd been doing quite a lot of work over the last few weeks. Leading up like, November, December. And it's really lovely when you remove those subconscious blocks. It really helps the right person and right situation to come in. It did take all of his hard work and all of his skills, but the right situation came about that he could use them and utilize them. And
That's
it
awesome.
was just awesome. Yeah.
That's great. That makes me happy. So yeah, I'm glad I could be on here. Did you have any other questions, or is there anything else I can do to add value here? I think we lost him, so that's totally cool. And so grateful you guys can be on here, and I appreciate you and all that you do to add light to this world. And thanks so much for being on here. Take care.
Let's. Uh, uh, um, oh yeah. Shit. Fuck. Oh, fuck. Hello? Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry, Manuel. Um, uh, oh, sorry.